question mark. We're not sure if that's an actual category or that's just your typical cyberpunk hiding under the moniker of, oh, I hacked that website for a political reason. It's a little dubious right now. But basically, using this model, you get an idea of where those individuals might be. Remember this model when we talk about investigations in a second. Remember I talked about those salient points, right? In that chart, as we had that methodology we went through, we started here, we worked our way down. At the other end was going to pop out this, hopefully, a little bit less than an absolute picture of who that person is, and a little bit more than everybody that uses cyberspace. You want to be able to narrow it down to at least a reasonable amount of individuals. So the salient points are those elements that are necessary to do the following. Answer the investigative questions. Build that picture of the perpetrator. Allow us to start putting those pieces, those jigsaw pieces together. Allow us to say, this is actually, this actually is the border on the right-hand corner. If you've ever done jigsaw puzzles, you always want to start with the edges, right? The constant colors, the constant backgrounds. Same thing here. But we've talked about the physical, and most of the research has talked about the use of these salient case points with the physical. How about in the cyber? Do we have analogous elements between the physical and the cyber? And the research has shown, the research we've done, and some of the work shows, yes, we do. We have analogous salient case points. But we have to know where to look from them. We have to know where to look for them. Where do you look in a computer system? Where do you look in a log? Where do you look for this information in the digital? And that becomes the challenge. What's needed then is really a basic understanding of technology and, for the most part, the internet. Because that is really the crime scene that we're dealing with here. Also, you have to remember, when we're doing crime scene analysis of any type, especially now with cyber crimes, we actually have two types of cases we're dealing with. Type 1 is where you have an unknown perpetrator, an unknown suspect. An example of that would be a hacking case. You may not know who's hacked you. You just had, basically, your IDS system's been tripped, and you know that something's happened. Your job then is to do a backtrack, right? You want to do a root cause analysis, what happened, trace back to whom did it. You don't start off knowing who that individual is, or individuals are. Type 2 is basically you're known. This would be your known perpetrator. Somebody has taken their system into Best Buy, and the tech has found hundreds of pictures of child pornography on that system. Well, you know who the system belonged to, right? You now have an identifiable individual. You're now going to be treating that case differently. When I use the example, people smirk. I tell you right now, the vast majority of individuals who get caught for child pornography, that's how it happens. They take their systems in for repairs, and the repair people call the police. It's a real interesting phenomenon. Part of those characteristics we talked about with pedophiles who use technology. There's some interesting things. That is another lecture. Well, let's look at these crime scene elements. And that really shows up well, I hope. Really, if you're looking at conventional crime elements, the first column is conventional, the second column is equivalent cybercrime, and the third is really the narrative. Why is this important? I'll just go through a couple of these. Conventional crime element, you have selection of a victim, right? That scenario where somebody came in and shot me, I'm the victim, right? You can identify the victim. You could actually ask questions about, well, what did you do beforehand? Do you know this individual? What at-risk behaviors have you been involved in? Does this person have a grudge against you? Does anybody hate you? Is it a grad student that you didn't pass? What's going on? Well, how about on the cybercrime side? Take a server that's been attacked by a piece of malware. Who's our victim here? Or what is our victim? At least one of our victims. The server itself, right? That's analogous to the victim. What information can we get about that? Just knowing that it's a particular type of system. Identifying the victim. It's this server that was attacked. That goes a long way. Now we know where the crime scene is, right? Now we know where to cue in on. Let's look at characteristics. I talked about that victimology. Characteristics of the victim. I mentioned their at-risk behaviors, where I've gone, what I've done, who holds a grudge. Again, that server being our digital victim, what information might be pertinent about that? How about if it was a workstation? Is it a server? What type of server? What type of operating system is it running? Who did it belong to? A business? Did it belong to the military? Did it belong to a government agency? Why would that be important? Understanding the characteristics at that level. What are we trying to do here? And I'll argue that each one of us in this room that has done anything related to incident response has gone through this process. We just haven't articulated it. We haven't formalized it. What are we trying to do? Jurisdiction. What else? Fingerprinting. We're trying to build a picture of who that person at the other end is, aren't we? This individual specifically attacked this Windows server. And they went after the web server. That gives us an idea. Okay, we're looking at an individual who attacks Windows systems and IIS 6, let's say. That's a lot of information. More information than we had beforehand, right? Let's help us narrow it down. Something that's really becoming important now is the concept of forensic evidence at the scene. As more and more of these CSI shows are out there, as more and more stuff is happening, as we do lectures like this, as we talk about computer forensics and anti-forensics, we're actually falling into the risk of actually educating those people we're trying to catch. Understanding what forensic knowledge that individual has can be extremely important. In the physical world, we know that this is apparently where the crime scene is. There's no blood. There's bleach, but there's no blood. What might that tell you? They cleaned it up. Sure. How about on the computer side? The old trick they used to do with the Trojan horses. What was one of any Trojan horse script worth its weight used to do what? Go and clean the log files, right? The really kludged ones would go in and wipe the log file out. So it became obvious that, wait a minute. There's no log file and there should have been. The more devious ones would go out and surgically remove entries. Try to figure out when that happens if there's anything suspicious. So basically, forensic evidence at the scene becomes extremely important as well. So yes, there are analogous elements. There are analogous case points. There are these nine questions are really the questions that majority of the investigators look at. That when you're doing any type of psychological crime scene analysis, whether it be in the physical or the digital, these are the 9 basic questions that you want to at least have some answers to. And in the research and in the practical things we've done, we've shown that we can answer at least those 9, if not many more. So there is some utility. Basically, the psychological digital crime scene analysis reduces the pool of potential suspects. Just like we did in the physical world, right? Focuses the investigation. Rather than focus the investigation, like in the physical world, to a particular geographical area, this is like doing geographical profiling within the digital space, within the file system. Look in these directories. Look in these particular areas. With these individuals that are involved in child pornography, they tend to stick the files in a certain area. They tend to name their directories in a certain way. They tend to follow a bit of a theme when they're doing this. They will actually list directories like really bad pictures, boys under 10, toddlers. Why would they do that? If somebody saw that, they're going to go, oh my gosh, look at this. They don't think anybody's ever going to see it. And it's part of their characteristics of being very precise in how they list things and what they do with this. Provide insight into the technical ability. Why would that be important? Why would it be important to look at the technical ability of that individual? Why is that of any relevance to us?
To see if they could have used tools like steganography to hide more pictures. Or,
sure. Are they basically doing a staging? And what can help is some of those 9 points we talked about before allows you to go back to that circumplex and say, it looks like they were motivated by revenge, because look, here's the script they used. They basically, when they got on there, they sent messages to